Hello and welcome to Unews. I'm Carolina Sarassa and thank you for being here with us. And we begin today in Mississippi, days after a massive raid in that state. Undocumented families are hoping to start again. Many of them afraid to look for work and even to send their children to school. Meanwhile, the White House is now saying more raids could come. Lorraine Cáceres is in Forest, Mississippi, live with the latest. Lorraine.
You're absolutely right. This community might very well never be the same again. People here are very afraid to leave their homes, and everyone is wondering what exactly is going to happen in the coming days and the coming months when they run out of money and jobs are scarce. Right now, a lot of people telling me they've lived in Mississippi for so many years. They don't want to leave Mississippi. This is their home. This is where they're raising their kids. This is a great place to live. And it's like going to another state is also not another option, because as you were saying, the White House is asking ICE for more raids, especially in workplaces, given that they're calling this such a successful raid. What we know right now is that ICE and Border Patrol are defending their actions, saying that these employees that were using fake Social Security numbers, and also the employers were committing fraud, and children crying are not going to deter them from doing these operations. Let's listen to what he had to say. Foods, one of the companies that operates two of the plants that were affected by these raids. Coke Foods has said that they can't even give us an exact number of how many employees were arrested, because ICE representatives took all the documentation, their documentation for employment. So it's been really difficult for them to even determine how many people they've lost. But right now they're looking for about 200 employees, all related to chicken processing. A lot of locals here are coming, and the director of this center was telling me to advise the immigrant community not to come this way. This is not the job fair where they're going to be helped, as they are only looking for people that can present documentation from the U.S. that authorizes them to work legally. They're going to be using E-Verify to make sure people's IDs match not only name, pictures, but also Social Security numbers. So this leaves a lot of immigrants with the question of what next. As I was saying earlier, there's not a lot of restaurants here that, you know, they can get jobs that pay in cash, and also cleaning services, which is a job that we usually know a lot of undocumented people can resort to because they pay in cash. So they do need a Social Security number, either, you know, from another person or made up. A lot of people telling me they were working at these plants using their cell phone numbers as a Social Security number to be able to work. So we're going to see what's going to happen here in the next few days, which are going to be crucial so that people determine what they're going to be doing and where they're going to be going. For now, I'll toss it back to you, Carolina.
And many of these families have 9 or 10 children at home. But Lorraine, is there any information on whether the targeted companies are facing any charges?
Not information we have right now, because it's been so recent. It's just been a few days since these raids took place, and we do know, as I was saying, that a lot of ICE officials took a lot of documentation with them. They're going to be reviewing these documents, and here's the key point. It's not that the employers are not vulnerable to being prosecuted. They are, but it's much harder to prove that these employers did not know that these documents were false. That's a bigger burden of proof for the authorities. So it's actually very much easier to arrest the employers, prosecute them, and deport them than to get a case in court for the employers. So we'll have to see how this progresses with the coming months. We do know that only a handful of cases of employers have been prosecuted in the last few years. Carolina, back to you.
Thank you, Lorraine, for that live report today. And for more on these raids, we're joined by Professor Angela Stisi. She's a cultural anthropologist at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. She's been doing a lot of research into the poultry industry in that state for over a decade. Thank you for your time. Epidemic of gun violence in America. People are on edge in the wake of the most recent mass shootings. A scare at a mall in Houston sending panicked crowds running into the streets while police search for those responsible. Meanwhile, in Ohio, scene of a deadly mass shooting that killed 9 people, cries of enough in an anti-Latino massacre that killed 22 people. One El Paso survivor just wanted to do what he thought was right. The 72-year-old man says a police officer rescued him from the scene of the crime using a child's wheelchair. With Univision's help, that child was found in Mexico, and that wheelchair was returned. Sacha Preto has this incredible story. It's a beautiful story by Sacha Preto. And now, today marks 2 years since a white nationalist plowed his car into a group of counter-protesters in Charlottesville, Virginia, killing Heather Heyer last year in the shocking suicide of alleged sex trafficker and multi-millionaire Jeffrey Epstein. Correction officials now trying to explain why, despite being on suicide watch, Epstein was left alone just weeks after allegedly trying to kill himself. Andrea Linares has the latest.
Attorney General William Barr spoke this morning saying he was appalled and angry when he heard about Epstein's death, and he also promised that this is not the end. Let's go ahead and take a listen. Autopsy has been performed on Jeffrey Epstein, but the medical examiner's determination is pending. Further information. We'll stay on top of this story. Gato, now back to you.
Thank you, Andrea, for that report. And now coming up, we have an accident at a beach in Massachusetts. A teenage boy was impaled by a flying umbrella. Paula Biden has the details as well as a warning from experts. A California school district is stopping a science teacher from handing out a gender unicorn paper explaining sexual preferences. Grecia Lastra has more details. The Trump administration has finalized changes to enforcement of the landmark Endangered Species Act, a move, it says, news from the Pentagon. U.S. military officials have identified. Coming up, attorneys for Bill Cosby are... Disgraced celebrity Bill Cosby is trying to have his sexual assault conviction erased. His lawyers for development involving disturbing letters sent to a family who bought their dream home in New Jersey. The family purchased the house 5 years ago, but never moved in after getting letters from someone calling themselves the Watcher. Rafael Rodriguez has the latest on this bizarre case. And welcome back to Unews. Thousands of people gathered for a yearly event for La Luz del Mundo Church in Guadalajara over the weekend, despite the arrest of its leader, Nason Joaquin Garcia. Now parishioners are reporting more and more threats being made against them. Azul Alvarez has more. Guatemala has a new president. Conservative candidate Alejandro Yamatei won yesterday's runoff election. Michelle Jurado has the details on his win. Argentinian voters soundly rejected President Mauricio Macri's economic policies. Warning, you might find this next story from Colombia a little bit disturbing. A deadly accident at an air show that was caught on. I have a question for many of you. Do you guys bake the marshmallows out of Lucky Charms? Well, you no longer have to do it. Now let's go to Nico Cantor for a recap of the best of this weekend's sports action. Nico, the sports recap. And now coming up, learn and welcome back to Unews. A major studio cancels a movie just weeks before its premiere. But first, big news at the box office involving a spin-off to a very popular franchise. Miriam Arias has more details.
The company said that the reason for this cancellation was the one in El Paso, Texas.
And Miriam, I know you have more details about another show that's about to premiere at Univision starting tomorrow. I'm so excited to see it. It's very historic. We always watch telenovelas. Of course, a woman and a guy, but now it's something different.
Yeah, completely. So it's the first time we're going to be seeing something that once before actually was called The Newsroom, so that was really cool to see. But we have to see what this one has to offer. It's described as giving us an inside look at the reporters and anchors who help America start their morning.
That's great. Well, Miriam, thank you so much. Excited to be back with you guys. And we'll see you guys tomorrow here at Unews at the same time.
So excited to see this.
Thank you, Miriam.